Welcome to another episode of Don't Call Me Exotic podcast hosted by me, ONEO, in collaboration with Seoul Community Radio. And I'm sat here with UMAN THERMA. Woo!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's so nice to see you again.
I know.
My trip in Seoul was very you-oriented and Tom-oriented. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Could you start off by introducing who you are and what you do?
Okay. Hi, my name is UMAN THERMA. It's my DJ name and also producer name. So I produce electronic dance music, but kind of in a weird way. And also I'm better known as a half of Salamanda, which is a left field ambient producing duo. And also, I have uh, another group called Computer Music Club, which is another dance music producing trio based in Seoul. So, yes, that's about it.
How long have you been producing for?
I think it's been 4 years, I guess.
And when did you begin both of the duo and the trio?
So, it was right away since I first started learning producing music and also DJing. So it was, I think, 2018. That's when I first learned about all things. And then, right after, I began producing my own stuff. And then, a couple of months after I finished learning, I met Yetsubi, and then we talked about music or clubbing experiences. And that's how we naturally got into it and then started this project.
What about the clubbing experiences?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys kind of share and connect with?
Yeah, we used to go clubbing a lot. And then that's when we get to talk more about music that we like and other culture stuffs that we could share. Yeah.
So from kind of the perspective of
Mm-hmm.
I guess being female and
Mm-hmm.
being in Korea and going out. I mean, this is kind of it's for my own curiosity. Can you tell me about that experience? And
So it was 2014. That's when I first learned about clubs in Itaewon, Cakeshop. Like I always wanted to go to Cakeshop since then, but then I had to fly to UK for studying, and then when I came back, I was touring around the clubs in Seoul, and that was pretty amazing. But at that time, I felt like most of the clubs were a bit more male oriented, but like I also knew some other female DJs that are really cool and play some really cool stuffs. So I wanted to learn myself. And then like after learning how to DJ and being into more clubs in different regions outside of Itaewon or Hongdae, I learned there are so many good female community for DJs or producers here, and like being with them and learning from their music stuffs were really interesting, and I felt more safe and more comfortable. So yeah, I'm really happy that now we have that kind of um we have that more parties with female
yeah,
artists here.
because I know we were talking last week about the lineup kind of ratios and
Yeah.
stuff. And I mean, it's so interesting to hear you talk about how you were inspired by seeing representation.
Hmm.
Do you think since then it's gotten better, or do you think there's parts of it that have gotten better, or there's more work to be done?
I think it was the time when I first got into this scene. It was already getting better because there were more and more female DJs that were doing more stuffs in bigger places or events, And I think I really want to like thank them for making this scene more female friendly and more safe. And yeah, I definitely think it got much better. But like still, like as Yuzo mentioned, like still like there are like events or venues that are still male oriented.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to talk about like the party that you and Tom threw, which
Mm-hmm.
I was so lucky to be able to DJ at, called Heem.
Yeah.
So do you want to like tell me a bit about like the like
Mm-hmm.
story behind it and why you
So
wanted to
like
start it?
the party, like first of all, like we didn't originally plan to have this party for like we didn't plan it for like long time, but like it's based on the idea that we shared for a long time. Like we talked about how like more Asian needs to be represented, but also like female or queer DJs as well. So it's kind of like a party that came from our ideas that we had, and from like with this party we wanted to support more DJs or like producers who are on like not on the mainstream but more in the sideways or like more underrepresented. And yeah, so our party Divine Hymn is for like female queer DJs but also like Asians around the world, and we want to build a more strong community within these people. I'm not Tom, I'm sorry. Like I'm terrible in TGs.
No, that's perfect. But when you were saying that you wanted to represent more Asian DJs,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considering that the population in Korea is
Mm-hmm.
like
I know.
99% Asian, so like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean by that?
So like not only for Koreans but also like Asians from around the world. Like for example, we have like Southeast Asians or like South Asians, but everywhere. Like we, we feel like we need to build a bigger community within Asian countries or like Asian-based people, and like regardless of where you're from, like for example, like from China, Japan, or India, like I wanted to create a space that where we could all like get together and like share our ideas as like Asian, because like Asians have been like fighting against so many stereotypes or so many hatred, and I feel like we needed that.
I think Asia as a continent we
Mm-hmm.
should unite because
Yeah.
fucking massive. Like there's so many of us, so it's so strange to be part of the like minority.
Mm-hmm.
From myself being in the UK, when it's like, bitch, we're the majority of the
Mm-hmm.
world. But I wanted to kind of ask you about your experience when you were studying in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
It was from 2014 to 15. So I was studying in Portsmouth, which is like the southern side of the UK. And I was super excited to be in the UK, like as an adult. It was my first experience overseas as an adult. And like, I wondered like what it's going to feel like as being an adult living in like outside of Korea, because I used to live in San Francisco when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
So like at that time, like everything looked so like good, like all friendly and stuff. But like I felt like I could learn more about the world and like what kind of hardships would like I would have being in there. And I learned about a lot of like stereotypes or like harassments towards like Asian, and like random racial slurs or everything. And like I'm not saying like everyone did that. Like it was very like few cases that I've witnessed, but then like through those kind of experiences, I learned how like it's so hard living outside of Korea as an Asian. and also like we need to build a like strong community to like protect each other and to like support. I think that kind of connects with Divine Him as well. Like we want to have this community more stronger so that like I'm not saying like we should divide like culturally, but like I I I would really like to see like all Asians support each other and like be more supportive towards.
Do you see kind of a lot of racism here?
Yeah, probably towards like non-Koreans
Yeah.
because like Korea's like you mentioned like 99% of people here is Korean, so like there's been like ages of history of racism towards, especially towards like African American or some Southeast Asians. But I think it's getting better. But still, like there are so many incidents or cases like that happens in workplaces or clubs or everywhere. So that needs to be changed.
This trip has been like so basically like life defining for me because there's a lot of stuff that I had to work through the past few years of like because I was born here but grew up in Toronto and now I'm in London, and it was more of me growing up as a like teenager in Toronto where I just like had all this like internalized racism and like self-hatred and all this stuff, and that only the last few years I've like started to unpack. And I've been to Korea like previously to visit like when I lived in Canada and stuff. And then I almost like it's almost like I'm ashamed and embarrassed to say that I almost felt like, oh, like I can speak English, like I'm like almost like I felt this like superiority almost because like I feel like there's so much emphasis on like kind of putting the Western society like almost on a pedestal. So I'm like so embarrassed and ashamed to say that like I felt these moments when I was a teenager and I would come visit. Whereas now coming back and having worked through all this like shit in my head, I'm coming back and I'm like, I'm so embarrassed that I can't read Korean. Like I'm so like I'll go to restaurants and I'm like, I'm actually embarrassed. So it's like completely switched around for me. So to come somewhere where it's so where I'm like part of the majority, it's been like I want to move here because I'm like, oh, like this is what life could have been like. But yeah, I mean that's something that I've had to work through and like I've just now like confessed on this podcast. But I think it's also important to talk about stuff like that because that I'm sure I'm not the only person who's maybe felt that way. But
yeah, for me, I think like not being able to speak like certain language fluently is not an embarrassing thing at all because like it's not your mother tongue anyway. So like if you're in like Western country, like if you can't speak English like fluently enough, it's fine, I guess, for me because like at least you try to speak their language, and like I feel like they need to respect you for like trying and like trying to learn their like language or culture. But there were like cases, there still are cases where like some people, like for example like English speaking people get so like impatient towards non-English speaking
so like
people.
foreigners who come in. Yeah.
So even in Korea, like some people who get to like talk with locals who doesn't speak English well enough easily gets like very frustrated while communicating, and I feel like they need to develop their patience more because like you're not the one who's like not trying to learn Korean, like the language like majority of people use in the country. So I learned like from my experience from abroad, I learned like to be more confident, to not speak English fluently.
Yeah.
And also, I was like thinking today, like I have 4 English names now because like I have Jimin, which is my original Korean name, and also I have UMAN, which is my DJ name. Also, I have Sala, which is my Salamanda like identity, and also I have Jamie, which is my English name.
Okay.
So I have 4 names in
Oh my
total.
God.
And the one I used in the UK or like somewhere else was Jamie because like most of the people, like non-Korean people or like especially like people from the Western country, really finds it difficult to like pronounce or like remember Asian names. Like Jimin is kind of simple though, but like still like not many people can remember it well. So like I just decided to like make another English name so that like they could at least communicate with me well with
See,
that name.
I totally get it because I did the same thing, but
Mhm.
it's actually so fucked if you think
Yeah.
about it. So I chose my name Annie when I chose it when I was 6 years old. So we moved to Canada. I watched the movie Annie, like the musical.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know it?
Yeah.
Like Daddy Warbucks.
Mhm.
Not even the first movie. It was like the sequel where she moves to London, which is so cute.
Aw.
And now I've dyed my hair red, so I was like, I've completed it.
Yeah.
But so my parents tell me that we never got my name changed. It was like I came home from school and I was so frustrated that no one could pronounce my Korean name Sooyeon. And I just watched that film and then I like wrote down Annie on a piece of paper and then put it on my desk. And then that's what everyone.
Wow.
I mean, it could have been worse because a 6-year-old who doesn't know English could have picked a worse name. And I feel connected to that name as well now. But the fact that like a child understood that like their identity wasn't like normal or like accessible to their surrounding, and then to the point where they were like, I need to rename myself, is fucked.
I know.
And I'm almost like annoyed that I get why people choose English names, but I think like as a whole, we should just stop doing that.
I know. Like it's been like most recent that I like thought of that and find it really weird because like it's your name. Like you
And
can't
it takes
just
2 seconds
change it.
just learn
I know.
how to pronounce it or like put the effort in because there's so many like Western names that you pronounce it completely different from how it's spelled.
Like even in Korea, like when you like listen to someone's like English name, like they can remember it very quickly.
Yeah.
But like otherwise in like somewhere else, like very easy name, but like they can't remember it.
Or they don't try to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like foreigners wouldn't come and choose a Korean name. That's not really a thing.
No.
So it's just, I think collectively as a whole, we should stop.
Yeah.
But like, do you feel like obviously your DJ names and stuff, but like, do you feel a connection to all of those names?
I guess. So like nowadays I just introduce myself as UMAN because like most of the people I meet nowadays are like people in the scene. So it's more easier for me to like introduce my DJ name. But now I'm trying to introduce my real name to people when I for someone like I communicate very often, and I just want them to like remember my real name. So like they need to get used to those kind of names.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not that hard.
Yeah. So do you use Jamie still?
No. I think it's I just dropped that name like years ago, I guess.
I've noticed like I guess it's normal for multicultural places to have people enter the country. Like myself, like I'm in London now, but I'm not from there. I'm a British citizen now, but like I was Canadian, Korean. And I've like been welcomed into the scene and stuff. But I guess here it's more obvious when there's like, I guess, an outside influence because the culture is mainly Korean people. Have you kind of I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on like, I know there's like some like there yeah, just like what your take is on like people coming in and like celebrating like Koreans and being welcomed in that scene.
Mm-hmm. So like people from outside coming
Yeah.
into Korea and like being um, inside in this scene.
Yeah.
So like I think that's a good thing because like they're interested in this culture and like that's a good thing, but like it's not like an obligation or like anything, but I feel like they need to have a bit of respect towards this culture, and also they always need to keep in mind that they need to keep representing this locals in all kind of scenes like music or art or everywhere. Like I just like it's okay to like mingle with everyone, but I just don't want them to like be like dominant over this culture because it's already very a small scene, and like we are doing like our best to make this scene more like introduced to outside. And yeah.
It feels like such a tight, close knit
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying that like when you're entering such a space, like you should celebrate it
Mm-hmm.
first, or like I guess understand that you're like a guest in like the culture, I suppose. But at the same time, it's like multiculturalism is
Yeah.
great, and yeah, it's been such a learning experience for me to like come from really multicultural areas, growing up in them, but then always feeling like the minority, and then
Mm-hmm.
coming somewhere where I'm part of the majority. Like I can't get my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, but there's like pros and cons, I guess, to both of them.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
what are you thinking?
I'm just like thinking like whether I should like talk about like some thing in this podcast or not. But I rather not.
Okay.
It might be too aggressive.
Too aggressive?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I don't think you and aggressive put together. I can't imagine it as you drink your gentle tea.
Oh.
But yeah, tell me about like what you've got coming up, because I know you've got a solo project that you're working on.
Yeah, like we've been like working so hard with Salamanda thing for this year and last year. Like we've been like hustling for years. So like we just completed our new album. So like for the upcoming album, so it's going to come out probably sometime next year, and then we are preparing for a tour in Europe.
Yes.
So super excited for that. And also like finally I'm starting to work on my own project, and to be honest I'm not sure like how it's going to be. Like I'm not even sure like what genre I'm going to make. Probably something very weird, experimental, but I want to make some like experimental footwork tracks or some breaks, jungle that I really love to play as a DJ. So yeah, that's going to be it.
Does your DJ sets kind of inspire your uh, produced tracks,
Yeah, I guess. Because like
or is it the other way around, or both?
I think it's both. But
Yeah.
I usually learn from the tracks I play because like those are the tracks I really like. I love to play, and I don't know, like I get so much inspiration from like tracks that are like as weird as possible. And also like for genres like footwork first sounded really strange to me. Like the beats are like really different from other genres like technos and house, but like that is what fascinated me. So I want to make those kind of like weird stuffs. I'm not sure like why I'm into such like weird kind of stuffs, but I think that's what makes me so yeah.
But I think as a producer and DJ, it's so
Mhm.
interesting because you can almost like see what works in clubs and
Mhm.
stuff, and then like what gets a reaction, and then you can kind of like, I don't know. As someone who hasn't like started producing yet, I'm like, maybe it's like a cheat code, because you can kind of
Maybe.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, from DJing out so
Mhm.
much, you can kind of see like what works and stuff, and then
But like
incorporate
funny
that.
thing, like footwork doesn't work here. For me,
Oh,
I think
okay.
because like it's so it's so not mainstream here. Like even like for jungle, like people still don't get it. Like people are starting to learn about like jungle DMB, but like still like there are very small crowds that are really into jungle DMB in Seoul. So I'm not sure like I want to make tracks that people like here, but
So what would you say are predominantly like the dominant genres here?
probably house and techno. But like for me and my friends, like they want to play like all kinds of genres. So like we have everything, but still like majority of people who are like aware of this electronic music scene loves like techno mostly.
Wow. I mean, I've heard so much like amazing electronic music since I've
Mhm.
been here, so I haven't even gone to any of the hip hop clubs, so I need to do that next time as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what have you got coming up in the next year? You got your tour,
Yeah.
you got your personal project.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually loads.
Yeah, I think that's about it. And also, like, we want to visit UK
Yes.
and see you there.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's surreal to actually be sat here with you because I think we met a year ago.
Yeah.
And like you played like a 6 set on my radio show.
Mhm.
I represent in London, and we were just kind of sat. And I think I said to you, like, I just want to play to a Korean audience.
Yeah,
I just
I
want to
know.
feel what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys put together an amazing party at Cakeshop, and then I played, and then I got, yeah, that was a really special night.
Oh,
And then now we're here.
I'm so happy. Like, the party went really well.
It was
like,
so good.
thanks to you,
No, I mean,
obviously.
come on.
Oh.
Come on. No, it was like everyone was sick, and
I know.
yeah, it just got very messy for me by the end,
Mhm.
but it's okay. A little scab on my nose, but it's fine. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Could you drop like all your socials, because I know you got a few.
Yeah, but like everything I like announce is on my Instagram. So it's at UMAN THERMA, UMANTHERMA. So check my Instagram.
Yay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.